Hi, I'm Casey Fadgett, and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. On this episode, we'll be talking about the economic downturn and what you can do to recession-proof your business. More on that after this break. Hey everybody, Casey from Nerdy Photographer here. I'm just letting you know that while you're in isolation, the Nerdy Photographer will be coming up with a list of fun photo projects and DIY photo stuff for you to do in your home while you're in isolation during the coronavirus pandemic. So keep an eye out for that. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram at The Nerdy Photo, on Twitter at The Nerdy Photo, and watch out for all of those DIY and little photo projects you can do in the comfort of your own home. So, after years of soaring economic markets and the world's finances have taken a huge dump. Yes, the coronavirus pandemic was certainly the catalyst for a lot of this downturn, but the markets were due for a correction anyway. And it looks like we're in for an extended global recession. I'm sure you like to think of yourself as a creative artist, but in terms of getting paid, most photo and video professionals are technically in the service industry. We are hired by individuals or companies to perform the service of creating visual media, whether that be taking wedding photos or producing branded video content. And when a recession strikes, the service industry always takes a hit. Everyone from luxury brands to low-cost service providers suffers, but they all suffer differently. So, how do you recession-proof your business? Well, it helps to look at who gets hurt the most. And it's middle-market businesses that suffer the most during a recession. Why? Well, people who frequent luxury brands will most likely still have the money to go with a luxury brand. The luxury brands might even offer lower prices to reflect economic concerns and therefore giving people a deal and playing off the luxury nature of their brand to actually get more people coming in the door from the upper middle market. And obviously, when money is tight, people will be looking to save money and get a bargain. So businesses at the low end of the market will be getting all the calls. Photo and video businesses in this sector should focus solely on their pricing during the recession because that's what's going to matter to the people who are looking to hire someone at the lower end of the market. If you're in the middle of the market, you need to start finding a way to distinguish yourself in ways other than just your price. Now, what does that mean? Well, you need to find out what it is that you offer your clients that nobody else in your market does. Now, that doesn't mean a product or service that exists nowhere else. It could be that you just do something better than all the rest of the people in your particular market, or you provide the highest quality product of that type in your market. Once you figure out what it is that distinguishes you from the rest of your market, you need to be using it in all of your marketing and client communications. Otherwise, you're going to fade into the gray area of the middle of the pack and your business is going to suffer. I map out an exercise on nerdyphotographer.com called Finding Your Photography Superpower that will help you figure out what you need to know. So once you're finished listening to this episode, head over to nerdyphotographer.com and check it out. Now, here are 3 things you can do to help get yourself through the recession. Now, normally, those first 2 things that I would recommend to you are A, pay off as much business debt as you can, and B, save as much money as possible before the downturn starts. But it seems like we've been thrust directly into the recession and there's no time to prepare at this point. Still, if you're able to get lower interest rate business loans through, say, the Small Business Administration, you could use some of that to pay off other business debts that are at higher interest rates. Decreasing interest payments and saving money should be your prime goals. In the spirit of saving money, you should be eliminating unnecessary expenses. It's time to really think very, very hard about what you're spending your money on. If you can find ways to cut back on spending, it frees up your cash for other expenses. Plus, it gets you in the habit of getting by while spending less money. Now, here are some expenses to consider cutting back on. Subscription services. Take a look at those $5 and $10 a month auto-pay subscriptions for software and things like that, and figure out if you really even use them anymore. Oftentimes, these services fall through the cracks, we stop using them, and we forget we're still paying for them because the amount we're paying is so little each month. Next, new equipment. You don't really need a new camera or lens right now. If you can get by without it for a while, it's probably better to hold off on any big equipment purchases for the foreseeable future. If you really need something for a project, you might consider renting it instead. Speaking of rent, do you have a studio or meeting space that you rent? Do you still use it frequently enough that it justifies the cost? I've made the decision several times over my career to cut ties with space rentals, both studios and meeting spaces, because it just didn't make sense to be laying out all that money every month when it wasn't adding up. Look into renting on an as-needed basis instead of committing to a long-term lease. Next, advertising. It's time to really evaluate which avenues of your advertising and marketing are bringing in business. Consider how much you spend and how much business you get back. It's your ROI, return on investment. If it's not working, stop paying for it. In fact, you might want to suspend most of your advertising for the next month or so. At this point, it is March, end of March 2020. You might want to consider suspending your advertising for until May, if you can. And finally, stop outsourcing. As you tighten your purse strings, it might be time to start editing your own photos again instead of farming it out to another service. Especially if you have less jobs coming in, you'll have more time to do the editing yourself, and you can save that cash for other expenses. I'm going to implore you to truly consider your return on investment. Think about the return on investment from all of your expenses. Are there places you can cut back or just cut out entirely? It's always good to go through your books regularly and evaluate these things, even when there isn't a pandemic that has stopped the economy in its tracks. But now, you can take the time to go through, look at your books, trim the excess, and hopefully come out the other end of this a lean, mean business machine. Found yourself a lot of free time on your hands these days? Maybe it's time to answer your creative calling. Master your craft, your passion, or something new with creative classes taught by the world's best photographers. Head over to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/creative live. That's nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/creative live. All one word. Get started for free today.
And now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death.
And now for this episode's useless information. Did you know that a snail can sleep for 3 years? I know a lot of us are wishing right now that we could just sleep through this whole coronavirus pandemic. It would certainly make quarantining ourselves and self-isolation a whole lot easier. And now for this episode's useless information. Did you know that a snail can sleep for 3 years? I know a lot of us are wishing right now that we could just sleep through this whole coronavirus pandemic. It would certainly make quarantining ourselves and self-isolation a whole lot easier. Thanks for listening. Please be sure to subscribe to the Nerdy Photographer podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, feel free to follow along on social media, at The Nerdy Photo on Instagram and Twitter, as well as The Nerdy Photographer on Facebook. Until next time, stay safe, stay nerdy.
Who's that coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heart been beating about? You better listen.